Good morning. Nice to see everybody. I was just reflecting on different life experiences that can come up for us, and just noting that and thinking about those experiences, the ones that are very vivid to us, are they're very full and real or even profound. I think of a trip that I recently was able to take down to the Grand Canyon. So it's just a very full experience. Taking the hike down the canyon, or even maybe the experience of reading a great book, just the feeling we have about that. Whatever that is, if I think about the notion of why we think it's valuable, so it just doesn't make sense at all to us. When we feel those things, like we ask the question, why do I feel that this is valuable? And that question just seems very hollow in those moments. Because those experiences are just very clearly so full and real to us. It's just everything when that's happening. There's no question or comparing at all that goes on. It's really beyond this conceptualization that we have to answer anything about it. It just simply is what it is in a very complete way. And then I think about a lot of other life experiences where that kind of why mind comes into the picture. You think about going to school or getting a diploma. Why do I do that? And it's linked with finding a job, and then our job is linked with finding a way to have income. So the why question does come up in a lot of different ways for us. We do the dishes in order to get the dishes done, and we're getting the dishes done, and so in order to relax, that why is a part of sort of the energy that can come into our life. So the why mind is sort of creeps into just the general approach that we can have in life. Maybe it's a little hard to see that unless we take a step back, we quiet down a little bit and notice that doing this for that type of feeling that can be in our life. So this activity of approach is sort of the energy that we have for a lot of different things. And in Buddhism, we can slow down a little bit and take a close look at this why mind, or this comparison mind, and find that what the Buddha is telling us is that this kind of transaction mind is actually something that we can really take note of and actually realize that there's suffering there. There's frustration that can come up. Actually, if we do feel frustration in any different form, Buddhism, hones our attention right down to this, why am I doing this, or this comparative valuative mind. And we hear about that term suffering, and you kind of think about when we do think about why we're doing things, or we're comparing different things, it doesn't seem like it's that impactful. It seems like it's pretty sort of just, there's not much to it. But I think the Buddha's teaching here really helps us understand that when things get pretty problematic for us, we can really see that as the core of the suffering that's arising. this transactional mind. And the reason for that is basically related to what I was saying before, that this why mind, this transactional mind of I'm doing this for that, is actually different than the true nature of life itself, which is more akin to that example of doing something and it just being the full activity. You know, we're out on that hike and there's no need to answer any question at all. It is complete in itself. And transaction mind is, it basically obscures this true nature of what is going on, that there is actually no way to answer the question why. And again, we recognize that in many different ways. And we can even recognize it in pretty mundane situations. Even if you're on the computer and you're playing computer solitaire, it's like, what's the point of that really? It's like, there's nothing really, there's no outcome to that. We're just enjoying what we're doing. And we can actually do that in every activity, including doing the dishes. It can be just doing the dishes for the sake of doing the dishes. This topic came about because of a quote that we covered in the meditation class. That's a 6-week class that we're doing right now. We'll be wrapping that up next week. And Steve Hagen in Buddhism, or in Meditation Now or Never, in that book, talks about resistance. And resistance is a pretty prominent thing in practice. You know, we can feel this resistance when we have the intention to do a sitting practice, and resistance comes up in a lot of different ways. Resistance is very much related to this why mind, or this transaction mind. So whenever resistance happens, we can see that there's a quality of comparing that goes on. And I think it's not only resistance to practice, but resistance to a lot of different things that we have in life. It may not be so clear exactly how resistance is happening, you know, what's sort of fueling that, but it's this comparative or evaluative mind that is at the base of that. It's the mind of alternatives and comparisons. And the why mind, or the comparison mind, is something that's very natural. You know, it's part of what it is to be human, basically. And this goes back all the way to the dawn of humans, that, you know, you're out and you're hunting and gathering, you're gathering food in order to get sustenance. There's this kind of reward side of many things that we do, where we have an intention and we get something and we're rewarded for that. So I don't want to create the impression that a comparative mind is something that is bad and we just need to completely do away with it. This practice is about just understanding where frustration and where resistance comes from. It's actually coming from that. And I mentioned that this why mind is not bad, because when you look at the Buddha's quest, that was very much a part of his initial quest to understand the source of suffering. You know, he's asking why this is coming up. So it's very important that we question things. He's asking what is the source of this frustration that we can feel? Why is it happening? And the why mind helps us in practice in a way where we have a bit of an impetus to do the study. So these different experiences happen in our life. Maybe, it's the whole span of different human experiences that we feel. Some are very difficult, and those tend to be the ones where we are asking these deeper questions. And that can really help us find a study where we can begin to understand what's going on. So the why mind here is very helpful when we just out of sincerity go forth and try to understand what this is. And this is linked to a deep desire to actually wake up to reality. So this why mind brings us to the study. It's called bodhicitta, the aspiration to awaken. And we read texts, we listen to talks, and that can be a great help to us. So Buddhist study helps us conceptually understand what's going on. So we hear about the nature of why mind, our comparison mind, and we can make sense of that and make our own determination whether this feels true or not, and then actually put that to the test. So we, in studying, recognize this valuative aspect that comes up, and just to see it very close up, face to face, honest look at it, and notice that actually frustration, as I was saying before, comes out of this comparing, because we're making judgments about different things. And it's very difficult to actually just do the activity for the sake of the activity when we're deciding one versus the other. And again, we do need to make decisions too, so it's not to cast that aside, but to see that for what it is. Because we lose sight of this full, real, profound experience in some sense. In another way, actually, that full, profound experience is just showing up as, making evaluation. So we're actually not apart from this full experience, even right in the middle of maybe getting caught in an idea. So we have the study side, where we are thinking about this, we're asking why in some different ways, but we can let that why sort of settle down with study and actually just listen to it for what it is and not need to make assessments about it. And then the practice side is just sitting, just being here, just being aware, actually seeing evaluation coming up in real time. Just being here, recognizing the truth of undeniable, full, real experience. So in sitting meditation, we have the chance to actually be in this room and actually just sitting as sitting, not sitting for something else, but just sitting here, just the experience. If I was to think of an example between these two kind of different apparent sides of Buddhism, the study and then the practice, you can think of maybe taking a hike. And we would prepare for that. We would, think about where we want to go, think about the different things that we need to do. But it, we can't stay there, basically. We have to continue on, and we actually have to be out there in nature, and then we're hiking. And actually, when you're hiking, and you ask yourself, why am I hiking? It's just, again, not a very satisfying question to ask, because it's just not needed at all. You're completely hiking, everything is there. And you're sort of carrying this preparation or this planning. The energy of that is right there with the hiking too. So it's all together. Study and practice are right together. So the quote from Meditation Now or Never that really caught my eye, and this is the one that we're using from in the meditation class, is Steve said, he's addressed resistance specifically, and here he's talking about resistance to sitting, and he offers the cure to resistance, which is kind of like maybe perks your ear a little bit. How do you cure resistance? And then when you read it, you're kind of like, oh boy. He says the cure for resistance is regularity. So it's sort of like a deep irony there, right? If we are, our objective is to have a regular practice and we feel resistance to that, actually the cure to that is regular practice. So it's sort of like, oh boy. But it makes sense in a lot of ways. So we're in just practicing, just doing regular practice, we're trusting that there is actually no why to things ultimately. So that's our practice, and we do that in a very direct way, just sitting. So this cure for for resistance is regularity, and this arises by the fact that we begin to see the actual frustration that comes up. So regular practice, we sit, as is mentioned in meditation instruction, you sit when you kind of feel very calm. So with a regular practice, you're sitting on a certain day at a certain time. Then you end up sitting when you're agitated or frustrated, or you're making a lot of comparisons. And so this regular practice, we can, on a regular basis, see the frustration that comes about from this comparison mind, which again is not bad. There's a value in comparison mind. So we're sitting and seeing this frustration of comparison on a regular basis with just an open heart to it, not a judgmental heart, but seeing that and being there with that. And then when we have the opportunity to see that very directly, then we can see the frustration arises out of investing energy into, why am I doing this? Or comparing maybe something else that we want to do. So this trust, our faith in practice, is kind of like just looking out over that immense canyon, and knowing that we don't need to ask why. Or if that frustration is arising, we begin to see this quality of just being moved by a book and knowing that there's no need to explain anything at all. We can actually just return, even right in the middle of frustration, maybe if it's during sitting or whatever, we can just return to this quality of beyond conceptualization. So why can tend to recede into the background, and actually direct experience just as it is can draw into the foreground. As Steve also says in Meditation Now or Never, the fresh air of true freedom begins to sharpen our mind as we see this aspect of resistance and why it happens. So we can trust sitting just as sitting. And that's one, I've noted one thing that is an attribute of Dogen, who is a very prominent teacher in Zen school. He, I think, kind of almost described his own teaching as being sitting as sitting. And that was something that he felt that was almost not original to him, but something very core. So sitting is just like sitting in a room and you're actually completely sitting. We can actually live life in it. I mean, it's more obvious when we're hiking, we can feel that we're actually hiking. That's what we're doing. There's no reason why. But we can actually sit in a room, in a quiet room, and it's just sitting is sitting. No question about it. So, trust in sitting is just the trust in our life, but obviously it's not a wow experience. Like sitting in the meditation hall doesn't really compare with looking out into the Grand Canyon. So I think that's one reason why it's a little, the resistance comes up, because it can be pretty boring. I don't know. A lot of different terms that we come up with. A lot of, it's just very easy on a very nice day or something like that. We're sitting in a room and we kind of compare what else we might be doing. I've mentioned the experience that I've had like that, and in that moment it seems like, okay, whatever I'm doing, it could be sitting meditation, and then I'm comparing to the beautiful day outside, or maybe yard work that I have to do. And I think, as I mentioned before, it's a very strong sense of that's what the reality of my world is. That it's either I could be in here or I could be out there. But this regularity of sitting also can enable us to see that actually, no, that is not the reality of what's going on. The reality of what's happening is me sitting on a cushion thinking about the comparison between this room and something else. So that's actually the truth of what's happening in this moment. So through regular sitting, we have the ability to actually see that thinking nature right there, right in front of us. So it's the sitting, just sitting is not a wow situation. But it is different than the many hours that we spend during our daily life, kind of comparing things and pondering different options. So again, it is a very rare experience, something different than we're used to in our daily life. So with sitting, we find what is direct, what is true to life. And that's what practice is, the sitting practice. There's a quote from Katagiri Roshi, and he is addressing faith in Buddhism. And I think faith in Buddhism is to trust practice in a way that we know we can never answer why. So normally having a belief about something, which we equate with faith, is to find an idea that we agree with. So the idea would be like, why do I do this? And then the idea is, I do it because. So in practice, we have this situation where we have to do practice without the aid of any conceptual idea of why, which is very foreign to us. So when you hear teachers talk about faith, it's not something that's based on a belief or an idea. We have to sort of take the leap and do practice of faith in something that we can't explain why. So that's very difficult for us, because we're just doing something for the sake of doing it. And it's very unusual, I think, and can be a challenge. Yeah, so Katagiri says, faith in Buddhism is to have trust in perfect tranquility. Which, when we hear that, it may sound, you can't really make sense of it, really. And I think that's sort of the point of it. faith in Buddhism is to have trust in perfect tranquility. So he's saying we're trusting, he goes on to say to have trust in something beyond conceptualization. And I think regularity helps with that. But then also just knowing that we can set aside our ideas about sitting. And maybe it's just we feel an intuitive sense of, yes, I can live just to live. That feels like there's something to that. Or I can sit just to sit. And if we reach for an idea, it'll probably won't feel quite right. But if we kind of feel, seems to be something about this, even though I can't explain it. As long as we embrace this, you can't explain it type of feeling. So there's helpful aspects of this too. When we have good meditation or bad meditation, when we've put our faith in this perfect tranquility or beyond conceptualization, we can know that there's actually no good or bad meditation. We don't need to compare anything. So there's no experience actually in life that is better or worse ultimately. I mean, there's many different things where we do need to compare, like injustices and different problems that come up in our life and need to take action on those. We'll end up getting into problems when we really grasp those ideas. But here, ultimately speaking, like meditation, sitting as sitting is beyond the notion of good or bad. So even if we have a very tumultuous mind in meditation, it is actually beyond good or bad. Through regular sitting, we can notice that there is no inopportune moment to pay attention. We may kind of want different, we want to be calm. There's a lot of different things that may be nice that arises in meditation. But actually there is no inopportune moment. This regularity actually shines a very bright light on the question of why that we have, or the comparison that comes up. It actually just lets us see that in a way that it's no longer hidden to us. Like everyday life, those things can sort of be in the background and we don't quite see them. But meditation, in however it comes up, so many different ways, or just being aware and attentive shows up in many different ways for us. We can actually clearly see what's going on in the moment and not be fooled by judgment and ideas and beliefs that arise. So that's all I have for today. I don't know if anything that I mentioned here brought up any thoughts or questions at all. Like I say, it was just a few comments from Meditation Now or Never that really stood out to me. Because I think it was interesting that, we're looking at resistance and having this teaching about understanding what it's coming from, and basically in doing so we can understand what the cure for that is. So yeah, anything that has come up at all? Any experiences that are beyond conceptualization?
Oh, thank you. Just a thought. I had opportunity a month ago to listen to another Zen speaker out in Wisconsin somewhere, and he used an analogy or a metaphor. I guess I never did know the difference.
Yeah.
But it's stuck with me for the whole month somehow, and it relates. It's kind of a different, well, same thing, but different language. He was basically talking about sweeping the floor, I guess, of a Zendo, and saying, well, if you're sweeping the floor and you're just sweeping, if some more dust blows in, you not only don't worry about it, you treat it with joy because it's more to sweep, I guess. And I've been thinking about that idea all week, or all month. But I guess I don't know what the question is. What do you think about that? Do we treat confusion in meditation maybe with joy as, part of life to some degree? But
I think so. My own experience, I think it's similar to that when I just think of an experience I had raking the yard, and I just noticed kind of like I wasn't wording this to myself mentally or anything, but it was just like, I don't want to do it, type of feel to it. And then I came back to the moment, and it's kind of like when we're just doing that activity, there's no room for anything else. So normally we're making room for I don't like this, or that comparison type of thing. But just doing that, if more leaves are falling, or more dust coming into the room, it would be beautiful for leaves to be falling in that moment, and you just continue to rake. It's like fighting against that. How much help are we doing ourselves? Like, if the dust could just stop blowing, we'll come up with some kind of scenario that we think is more ideal. But so, yeah, very much so. The joy of the joy of letting the preference sort of just evaporate in light of just doing the activity, I think is, so I don't know if that...
Right, but also maybe just the joy of seeing the confusion, or seeing seeing the thinking, just and saying, oh, that's part of it, part of life too.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think the directness of understanding where the turbulence comes from allows us to see thinking not as like that is the enemy. We just see it for what it is. Thinking is a very beautiful thing. You definitely don't need to demonize it at all. So yeah, just seeing it directly is to not be fooled by this sort of investment that we have in thinking, and just letting it be. And when we see it clearly, then it's just kind of like, what is the use of me just kind of complaining about the dust that's coming in the room? It's just like, there's no solution to that. So you just got to do what you have to do to clean the room. So yeah, those are great observations. Thanks. Yeah.
I have a comment from Denny online.
Okay, yeah, Denny, go ahead.
Good morning. Just two things. First one's a quick comment, and the second one, I guess, is a question. Um, what really helped me to meditate with regularity was when I listened to Steve Hagen's course online about meditation, and he just said, I don't want to misquote him, but basically treat meditation like brushing your teeth. Nothing special. Just thinking that we all brush our teeth in the morning. So just meditate like it's brushing your teeth. So that was really helpful. And then the second thing is I have to cut my grass today. And the why, the transactional mind, the comparative mind is there's so many things I'd rather be doing, but I have to cut my grass today. Do the awakened when the awakened cut the grass, do they not compare it to
I haven't
anything
seen that
else?
sutra yet.
Do they not really compare it to anything else? Just try to not think of yourself and not think of other, like just basically cut the grass, try to enjoy it. I don't know. It might be kind of a silly question, but um, we were talking about this in the Wednesday discussion. You know, uh, you always hear about dishes, just do the dishes that do the dishes. So I guess I should just cut the grass and cut the grass, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty much the same, I think. Yeah, for some reason the dishes example is a good, or let's say a common one.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe I'll start doing cut the grass now. Yeah, same thing. Same as so dishes or the toothbrush. Brushing your teeth is a good example too, because there is. Yeah, that's one that's if you think about it, the reason why is very strong. You know, it's conceptual. Conceptually, it's just like it's very clear why you would want to do that, but. In doing that activity, we do it so regularly that that why thing has just dropped off. And I think that's why, for the most part, examples like that where we're not struggling too much or at all against that is because we're not just like in that moment putting all our energy into like, I could be doing something other than brushing my teeth. So it's very clear that the frustration is coming in other activities from there's something else, you know, where so yeah, cutting the grass can be just exactly what it is, and ultimately it's just like you could come up with a reason why you had to cut it short, but then those answers just kind of stretching off into infinity, you know. It's just like, well, it's just going to grow up, you know, in another week or so. So like, so I'm doing it to be able to cut it next week. You know, it's just like, it doesn't make sense anymore. We can actually just not make this complex at all, but as you point out, Denny, just go ahead and cut the grass and make it simple. And the simplicity of just our activity that we're doing now is really what we're looking for. So yeah, thanks for the comment and question there. Those are good tie-ins to the topic today, I think, so appreciate it.
That was helpful actually, because when we brush our teeth, we don't really think about why we're doing it. It's so regular. So I'm going to start treating my
No?
grass like that.
Start treating what?
I'm going to start treating my grass like that. Just do it more regular. I
Exactly.
won't really think about. I won't be suffering as much. I won't be thinking about the why. I'll just be doing it if it's more
No.
regular.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Denny.
So in regards to regularity of practice, I struggle with that and signed up for a practice period at MZMC and sat for a couple days, and then I got sick and I could not sit. So I was kind of getting my energy going to sit and then couldn't sit for 6 weeks.
Oh, geez.
And so here I am in my bedroom with the shades pulled, like very little sensory input because I was so sick, being like, oh, I wish I could meditate. I wish I could have. I can't do that. So 6 weeks go by of being pretty much, you know, in a room.
Wow.
And in that process, I noticed sort of the weeds or the dust coming in of I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do it anyway, like kind of all of that. That the practice of sitting in my room that I had no choice about really had a very calming, settling effect. So I guess you don't have to sit in order to have
No,
that happen.
that's a great point.
But all of that thinking, you know, and it was the weeds of my thinking, the 6 weeks of whatever it was, it really helped.
That's a great aspect of that. That's probably the most salient message, too, what you mentioned there, is that it's not just sitting practice. The same spirit of attentiveness is something that we can do in every moment of life. And there's, it's almost like maybe it would be like resistance in your example, but then also I think of just daily activity. The real challenge there, maybe for a different talk, is remembering. So it's like if we're out and about or just taking a walk down the street, and maybe it's remembering a little in your situation, that is to remember to come back to this moment. So if you're walking down the street and the birds are singing, the practice can be just remembering to come back. So it's like we don't probably have a lot of resistance in that moment to come back. So that would be the other big component of practice, is just really trying to remember. Because they're, from my own experience through the past or whatever, it's just kind of, and now it's just everything that I do, I know that I can, just be here completely. And maybe there's an aspect of like kind of don't need to or why or sort of like that. But I think we can also feel that the practice can be a very complete and total picture for our entire life. But it does take like reminding ourselves. Because yeah, it's like you're in a room and you're thinking, well, I guess I'm not going to be able to meditate for a while, but and the Zen teachers are like, no, you're right here now. All the teachers of the past know that, no, this is exactly where we do it, no matter where we are. So thanks, Nancy.
Yeah, I got another lawn mowing story.
Okay.
So I was mowing the lawn yesterday, and my son has this Nerf gun that he uses outside. So usually when I mow the lawn, he
Yeah,
has.
I'm
No,
saying, okay.
I wish it was past tense, but it's not. And so when I mow the lawn, there's all these Nerf bullets all over the yard, and I have to stop and pick them up, and in my less generous moments, I just mow them over. But I was, finished mowing the lawn, and I was talking to my wife, and I was like, I just get so wound up around the axle about these Nerf bullets or whatever other thing, and I was like, if it's like 5 or 10 years from now, whenever my kids are out of the house, I would look on those Nerf bullets with great fondness,
Mm-hmm.
And so what's going on there, and kind of to your talk, it's just coming to the moment with these. The mowing the lawn was just this one thing that I had to get done so I could, do these other 50 things during the day, and I wasn't really present to what was going on, in that moment. So I appreciate
that's
your
a
talk.
wonderful way of, for me, that to express how the things that don't seem desirable or whatever are just like the complete richness of our life. And I think that is, that's the notion of meditation, is when we sit down, we kind of have a picture of it wanting to be very calm and, to look a very certain way. And in Zen, it's kind of like we can recognize that there's all kinds of variety, endless variety in our life. And maybe it's a little hard to see right now the depth and richness of everything. And so nothing inopportune ever, no matter what it is. Thanks, Pat. That's great.
Thanks for your talk.
Okay, thank you.